What's up, super fans? It is Fit Nerd from Superheroes Ultimate, and I am here with Todd McFarlane.
Good. Thanks for coming out to Toy Fair 2020. Good to meet you.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Sure.
So, as you were here not too long ago for New York Comic Con,
Yeah.
as I recall,
October. Yeah.
and you mentioned a story of, because you get this question a lot. Spawn is your baby, everyone knows this is your baby,
Yeah.
and people always ask you. You mentioned, why do you still draw Spawn? Why do you still continuously go into the panels? Why are you so interactive with it? And like you said, your answer was, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. It's the piece of my life that I own 100%, that I don't have to get any permission and don't have to ask anybody why I'm doing anything. And when you have busy days, or with my other companies in which all I do is ask permission, because I've got these licenses with all these companies and all these brands, and rightfully so, they have final say, that it's just nice to be able to just wake up, come up with an idea, execute it, and you're done. And you don't have essentially people in the middle of that process, right? So it's good. It's my vitamins. It's my creative vitamins. Yeah.
Now, with McFarlane Toys being by far one of the evolutionary pieces in action figures, having more detail, having more articulation. 25 years ago, everything was cookie cutter based action figures.
Right. Which is why I got into the business, right? For that exact reason. I'm an artist. There were lots of brands that I liked, sports amongst them. And people go, Todd, you're a big collector. Do you collect any of this? And the answer was no. And the easy reason was because they didn't look cool, right? And so I didn't understand it from an artist's point of view. Why can't these look better, right? I mean, I knew what the process was in its simple form, which was people take clay and they manipulate the clay, and then they make a toy and a mold out of it, which eventually makes a toy, right? Why don't they make the clay look better then, I guess? So if it's not the toy, if it's the clay, then why don't they make the clay look better, right? So the thing that's always interesting is that, you know, we get lots of accolades. You just said it yourself. You know, we did the highly detailed stuff, and it sort of revolutionized what was happening at the industry at that time. But I didn't do anything that couldn't have been done 50 years prior, because I was using the same clay that they were using. I just happened to basically put it in a different shape. I guess at some point, Michelangelo was using the same brushes and paints as his next door neighbor, just that when he strokes on a canvas, it looks different. I mean, I guess, you know, Michael Jordan used the same basketball as everybody else. It used to do different things for him. So maybe on our end, with the great group of people I've had over the decades help me, and the sculptors, we just see the world differently with our clay than they did. Now we do digital, but that was it. I literally started my company on one question: why can't these things look cooler? And then I made a couple phone calls and go, hey guys, what's it take to make a toy? And it's not as complicated as you like. They want you to believe that what they're doing is super complicated. It's plastic in a shape. It's plastic in a shape, right? So this. I wasn't trying to make computers. I wasn't trying to make rocket ships. I was making plastic in a shape. And so God bless that they weren't doing a good job of it, because everybody thinks that I did something revolutionary, to use your word, and it was like, what? They could have done it. There's nothing unique. I didn't do anything unique they couldn't have done. They just chose not to, which is always curious. But those are good places to be if you're an entrepreneur. Go to the places where people have been lazy, and then jump in and do something not lazy, and all of a sudden you look like a genius. So.
Yep, because I mean, that is one of the main pivotal things. When I was a kid growing up, and I had the 1995 figure from Spawn.
Yeah. That was what started our company. Yeah.
That was the starter, or the seed of all action figures. And me being a kid, seeing it on shelves and seeing it next to, let's say, like a G.I. Joe, and I'm like, that one looks way cooler, way stronger, way beefier.
Right. And here's the thing that people don't understand. You have two people. You've got your bucket of artists, and artists understand when something looks better, right? And then you have the average person, and the average person understands when it looks better. This is the thing that people don't understand, that somehow they're like, they won't notice. Of course they'll notice. If you give them more plastic and there's more detail and there's more color and it just feels better, of course my mom, who is not an artist, will understand that difference. And I know that to be true because I also, did comic books. And I used to take my pages and sell them. Well, the big collectors, they always picked the pages that had the big Spider-Man and they had the big Batman and they were the sexy pages. And when somebody down the block said, hey, Todd, is there any way I can get a page of artwork? And I go, yeah, I'll give you one. And I give them the stack. Guess what pages they picked? The same pages with the big Spider-Man and the sexy Batman. Everybody responds to quality in the same way, right? You understand quality in the same way. And then the only difference is, can you deliver the quality at a fair price? And if you can do quality at a fair price, you can sell that. And then the home run, the third piece, is if you put a brand name on top of it. Like, if you do quality at a good price, you don't even have to have a brand name. But if you can do quality, fair price, and a brand name, boom, boom, you can sell that all day long.
And clearly, it's been a huge success story because it's been about 25 years now.
Yep.
25 years, and it's evolved into other characters. It's evolved into other.
Well, and on top of it, not only what I've done hundreds and hundreds of licenses that have amounted to. We've probably done, 8,000 figures so far. Whoa. But what's way more important is that when you walk around Toy Fair, when I first walked around Toy Fair in 1995 with that first line, there was maybe 2 or 3 figures that I was jealous of, right? And now you walk around, and you go downstairs, and you see what people like. There are hundreds of figures that look really good, and I think that we had something to do with sort of carving that path. And then other talented people and companies came in and took a page out of our blueprint and said, you can make quality product. And even if you have to price it up a little bit, there's enough of an audience, there's an audience that's over the age of 14 that will also buy toys, but they're buying toys for themselves, which is, when you're younger, you're buying toys for your son or your daughter or for Christmas or for a birthday. I mean, you're buying it for a different reason as an adult. But now you got this whole group of people, and if you give them a quality product, they'll come and they'll support you. And you see it now. There's dozens of companies that are doing what I'm doing.
Truly amazing. And now you're also bringing that figure, the nostalgic figure, back on Kickstarter. Can you talk to us more about the Kickstarter? What fueled it? Is McFarlane Toys like a breath of fresh air extension?
Look, I'm a curious man. And I have a lot of itches, and I like to scratch them. This is just a scratch. I've never done one. I don't know what to expect out of it. I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know if it will be a good idea or a bad idea. I just know I've never done it, so I don't have any data to say I should or shouldn't be doing it because I've never tried it, right? So, when we were kids, remember? Mom saying, I don't like mushrooms. And she goes, why? You haven't tried it, right? This is just the mushroom thing. So what we're going to do is it comes under the umbrella of McFarlane MasterWork'S. So let's talk about that on a bigger scale. Under the McFarlane MasterWork'S, I'll be able to bring out then things like one-off figures that I might not otherwise be able to do with maybe some of the brands that we currently have. Right. I'll be able to bring out the 7th figure of lines that came out 20 years ago. So if you collected Tortured Souls and you bought the 6 of them, 20 years later you're going to get the 7th one. Wow. And if you bought the dragons, 6 of them, I'm going to give you the 7th one. And all those toys and all those lines, Movie Maniac, I'm going to add another one to it. All those lines that put McFarlane on the map the first 4 or 5 years, I'm going to go back to those, do some of those, and then I go, let's experiment with crowdfunding. What would be interesting to the crowd? Why don't we go back to the very first toy we ever did and literally do, because right now there's this thing happening with like retro toys, but what's weird to me is they're doing retro toys and they're making them just as bad, right? And I go, why don't you want to me, what I want to do is a digitally remastered version of it, right? Just like video games. It's like, this is what it used to look like, this is what it should look like. And so at first blush, you're going to see Spawn, and they're going to, if you're 20 feet away, you go, oh, it's the same toy, and then you're going to get close, and you're going to see, now, you know, the logo's slightly different, the colors are slightly different. I'm going to re-ink and redraw the drawing on it, but more importantly, the sculpt is going to be different. Same scale. You're going to have the hinge cape, so we're going to go back to that same fun that we had. You have the comic book, and then we'll put it out there, and then I'll be able to do different levels of, here's something with a different cover, here's something with an autograph, here's something with a different page. We'll be able to do some meaningful different layers. The one thing I can do that I don't think anybody else in this building, like in this weekend, can do, is that they can combine their notoriety as an artist with their company work, right? So I can bring my comic book reputation and my toy reputation, and I can mix some of those together. But it also means I'm just as excited to say we could get another Movie Maniac toy, right? It'd be cool, right? It's been a long time since I sold one of those, and the retailers aren't going to buy it, so now you have these outlets called .com and crowdfunding, and we're going to do those. We'll see how it goes. If it works, I'll do more. If it doesn't, I won't.
So you're seeding a new experiment.
It's an experiment, right? That's it. That's what I do.
And it turns out that when you experiment, it's just seeds to something massive.
Not all the time, but you never know what's going to grow unless you plant a seed. So this is just my seed. We'll see where the seed goes.
Keep planting until one of them grows.
And then water it and make sure that it gets big and healthy. Yeah, that's it.
Because
just like, you know, again, you see our DC Multiverse toys.
Right.
We have access to the movies, TV, animation, video games, comic books. Literally 70 years of. There's everything. If it existed, I have access to it. So what we'll do is we'll do different looks of all that, which you saw out there, and we'll just let the consumer tell us what they want, right? If they want more video game looking stuff and less cartoon, then we'll move accordingly. And if it's vice versa, then we'll do the same thing. If they want stylized stuff, they don't want realistic stuff based on movie, then we'll do stylistic stuff. They go, we don't want the comic book stuff, we don't want the TV stuff. Then I only get to dictate to a certain level, which is quality. Ultimately, the consumer is voting every day with their dollar in their pocketbook. So I just read the data and go, what are they buying? Give them more of what they're buying and less of what they're not, right? This is easy. So the business isn't overly complicated on some levels, right? So here's the tough part for an entrepreneur like myself. There may be lots that are listening in your audience, is that you're not going to be able to get the AAA stuff out of the gate. You're not going to be able to invent and get the big stuff. So what you have to do is just take what already exists and just make it a little bit better. That will basically put you on the map. You actually heard this good man here give me way too much credit, because I took the same clay that they had been making toys with for 50, 60, 100 years, and I just put it in a different shape, but the process was the same, and now all of a sudden you get the credit, right? I've said before, Steve Jobs, when he came out with his iPhone did exactly what every other phone did. I'm sure that they would argue, but it did everything that everybody else did except for one thing. Instead of touching a button when you text, you touched glass. Right? You're typing the same words. You're typing it on the same, like, it's just, instead of it being a bump, it was flat. That was it. That was his genius on that phone. He just made it sexy. He added that element, and then remember, you could go like this and make the screen bigger. That was it. He added two elements, and he kept 98% of what already existed in the phone, and he got all that credit. And so stop thinking you have to invent something totally new. Just look at the world, look what exists, and just make it 4%, 5% better, and they'll call you a genius. I promise you.
Todd McFarlane, it has been an honor to sit next to you and get so much advice from you. Awesome. I hope much success on the Kickstarter. If you are interested in the Kickstarter, check out the link below. It will be there. Yeah, I think we're going to do okay, right? Because we're getting the buzz already with the Spawn figure coming in from Mortal Kombat, because people going, oh my God, it's been a long time since we got this highly articulated Spawn figure. And
we're going to sell a lot of those just based on the fact that people want an articulated Spawn. They're not even going to care that it says Mortal Kombat. And then you're going to have people the opposite that are Mortal Kombat fans, don't even know what Spawn is, and go, man, that looks cool, right?
Yep.
So I'll be able to sort of sell it both ways, which would be good.
And it goes both ways with the comics too. I mean, when I was a kid, I saw Spawn, the figure first, and that attracted me to the comics.
Yeah.
And vice versa. The people that are attracted to the comics are going to go to the figure,
Right.
and it's a never-ending
Yeah, no, I don't
circle.
care. I built this empire, this house. Let's call it a house. And the thing about a house is that there's more than one way to get into houses, right? There's a front door, back door, there's garage, and if all those are locked, you can even go through windows, right? There's lots of ins and outs. So I don't care if you come because you know my comic book work, you know my toy work, you know what I did in video games, you know what I did in Hollywood, you know what I did because we did something in the music area. I don't care why you're here. Just come on to the house, find your door, find your entrance, come on in, and we're having a party inside, right? I like everybody, right? So let's just go, right?
You guys heard it from
That's
Todd
it.
McFarlane himself.
Come to the party.
Come to the party.
That's it.
Todd McFarlane,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.